Hello everyone, this is FIDE Master Viktor Neustroyev, a co-founder of chess school chesslance.com. Thank you for joining our event today. Today it is a mastermind where I'm going to share with you some insights about how to play Evans Gambit with white pieces. So I'm talking about this position: e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, bishop c5, and b4. Fine. Okay, we are waiting for more attendees to come. Please, everyone, let me know if the video and sound quality is good. If you have any questions you want me to answer, you may also ask me. Why not? We are waiting for more. Okay. Yeah, everything works here. I'm just checking that all my stream resources work pretty well. And I'm looking at your comments on our ChessLance masterclass webpage, as well as in my Twitch account and my YouTube account. If you also are a member of our chesslance.com group on Facebook, you may also comment there. I'll check these comments as well. So what are we going to talk about? Well, I'm quite experienced with Evans Gambit. I did a lot of analysis, and some of my students play. I'm going to share with you how to force black to stay under defense starting from the fourth move. So the quality is good. Thank you. Okay, looks like everything is working. Okay, guys, let's start. Let me actually get my keyboard here in case if I need it. So b4. Well, let's go back. Let's go back to the very beginning. Well, this is a way of how to play against e4, e5. So knight f3, knight c6, then bishop c4, and if your opponent plays knight f6, here you can play what you want, including knight g5, which I suggest, for example. This is how you attack f7, so d5 should be played, e takes d5, and knight a5. This is the main line. But most chess players prefer to play bishop c5 here first in order to prevent knight g5. So now knight g5 is a blunder. It's just queen takes g5 and that's it. That's why here, if you, for example, castle and they play knight f6, you have to play maybe knight c3 or d3, and then you play this this position, which is quite boring actually. It's a slow Italian game, which is also known as Gioco Piano. Well, you have to positionally maneuver your pieces, try to fight for the space on the queen side, so this is the most common idea. Knight d2, rook e1, knight f1, knight g3, this is another typical plan. You combine them, and this is how you should improve your position, but generally speaking, it's approximately equal. There is not much you can get there. Well, however, grandmasters still play it. But if you want to play something really sharp, something that forces your opponent, especially at club players level, you should play b4, Evans Gambit. The idea of this move is to sacrifice the pawn, but get the control over the center with 2 pawns. So c3, the bishop spends a temper. So one move with the bishop, then the other move with the bishop. Now we're forced to play with the bishop once again. They usually move to c5 or a5. And then regardless of what they play, you occupy the center with the other pawn. For example, e takes d4, c takes d4. So the main concept of this strategy of this opening is that you try to get 2 pawns in the center and dominate in the rest of the game, for the rest of the game. Yeah. So sometimes you don't get 2 pawns in the center, but in such a case you should obtain initiative. And usually you base your strategy on weaknesses. The main weakness is f7, and with such moves like queen b3 you are trying to pressure it. Well, it doesn't mean you should play queen b3 at any position of Evans Gambit, but in some it really works pretty well. So maybe knight g5 sometimes as well. But let's get deeper into details. And first I'm going to talk about these, the bishop c4, bishop c5, before they take c3, about this move. Doesn't really matter where the bishop moves, we always play d4. Who knows how to deal with e takes d4? And while you are thinking, I'm checking if everything works properly. Well, c takes d4 is common, but no. Oh wait, what happened? Guys, do you still see the board? Let me refresh the page. Well, it's loading. Oh, my internet connection. Sorry. Wait just a sec, I'll fix it. Maybe LHS is down. Yeah, if LHS is down, it's really bad, but I know how to fix it. Oh, perfect. Everything works again. Nice. Please confirm that now the board appeared back. So c takes d4 is a natural move, and I almost agree with you, but there is a better move. There is a better move that you can play. So what do you suggest, guys? Okay, yes, it's queen b3. Thank you. Here you can just play queen b3. Attack on f7. What happens then? Well, how they can save this pawn? Such move like knight h6 doesn't work, you just take it with the bishop. That's why they probably have to play knight a5, which is the only option. This is how they sacrifice the pawn. Well, once, but f6 doesn't work, it's just a blunder of the knight. So knight a5, bishop f7, not to d5. If you move the queen to d5, it's c6, right. You are absolutely correct. It's c6, and then you realize that you cannot take the knight, you can only move the queen, and your queen becomes the object of the attack. So that's why instead of this move, you play queen a4. Now c6 no longer makes no sense, and they take, you take there, and then you continue the attack of the king on f7. What may happen in case of bishop e7 line? d4, and if it takes d4, queen b3, and you are playing for a win. If let's say they play knight a5, which is probably I actually recommend you to learn these lines, but we are not going to cover them today. But if you remember, there was a game played by Garry Kasparov against Vishy Anand in 1995, where Garry played bishop e2 and played actually really well. He defeated Anand. I demonstrated this game on one of our webinars, so you should remember. Now let's talk about some of the main lines. Before they take c3, bishop c5, d4, e takes d4, and you. So here they, for example, most people here deliver a check. How should you react on this check? What do you think your options are? What's your opinion? Okay, so bishop d2 is recommended by Harry Bowles and I Shivempel. Am I pronounced properly? What else, guys? Partha Paul also suggests bishop d2. Actually, do you know that I was working with FIDE master Maxim Korobkin, my friend? So we were working together. I was helping him win some opening, and he also considered that Evans Gambit is what beginners should start with. This is what he recommends to his students. So if you are a chess player from, let's say, 1000 to 2000, these may become your primary opening. If you are over than 2000, well, you can still play Evans Gambit, but every time you play it, make sure that you deviate from one line to the other line. That's why it makes sense to change the lines. So for example, here you play Evans Gambit with castling, here you play Evans Gambit with queen b3, or you don't play Evans Gambit at all, you play something else against this concrete opponent. This is how this strategy will work. Actually, we can say it about any opening. It makes sense to prepare different lines to surprise your opponent and to force him to get into an unfamiliar position. So bishop d2 is your recommendation. Is that all? Anything else can be suggested? Knight d2. Castling is impossible when the king is under a check. Bishop d2, knight bd2, and king f1. When I did a research 6 years before, I decided that this is probably the most simple option. Then 2 years before, I decided that king f1 is quite attractive. But later I found out that knight bd2 is actually the best option. And this is the move that I suggest you to play. So what happens then? Here you may say, what about this move? Check on b3, taking this bishop. This is a winning position. You force the king to move, and you take the bishop back. You also gain the pawn back. So here you are absolutely winning. If they don't take your bishop but play king f8, they are still in the trouble. You can just retreat. Let them capture your rook. It's not a rook sacrifice, it's only exchange sacrifice. Check. And after this move, just take here and continue your attack. You are down the exchange, but it's a winning position. The king is exposed and your bishop on a3 is stronger than the rook. So, knight d2, what they may continue? Well, there are several good moves. Well, f6 is played, you can punish your opponent. No pawn there, so knight e5 cannot be played. That's why d5. Now, well, knight goes there, for example. Bishop b2, d6, bishop c3, the knight is in the trouble, so they have to play c5, but the knight is left there, so you can play queen a4, for example, provoke them to play b6 and take the knight on a5. This is how you double pawns on the a file, and what actually means that you gain a pawn, because these two a pawns can be stopped with the one on a2. This is one of the ideas, which is not the best. A better one is to castle, play f4, and get your knight back and fight for the center with e5 move. That's the best strategy, which allows you to dominate, and in fact, your opponent he has no counterplay on the queen side here. So, if the knight goes castle, this is how you secure the king, and after they castle, just queen b3, and after the bishop takes, well, yeah, if bishop goes there, you just play e5, and your queen b3 move idea was to protect on d5. Bishop takes d2, you cannot take with the bishop before it's hanging, so you take with your knight, and then continue with bishop b2 and e5. So e5 should be supported with f4 and maybe bishop f1 in order to get your knight improved to c4. And well, the good thing about Evans Gambit is that black can hardly come up with the move. Which helpful moves you may suggest to black in this? What do they do with this move? The bishop is not doing anything. Rook e8, well, yes, but looks like the moves are over. These three moves can be played, and then black doesn't know what to do, while white has several moves to improve their position and prepare them for a breakout. So let's go back. Demonstrate. What about d6 move? Well, d6, queen b3. You are threatening with d5, which chases the knight away, and you also attacking f7. Queen e7, attacking here on e4, because your knight is pinned, but castling. So if they take on d2 now, you can take with the bishop, because if queen e4, it's just rook e1. This is a very typical idea for Evans Gambit. If knight f6, what comes to your mind? What do you think? You already learned something about Evans Gambit, so I'm sure you can find how white should continue in this position. e5, e5. Okay, let's play e5. D takes e5. D takes e5 and knight d7, so I think it's not. But it's okay, it's a playable position, you can play. How to play? Well, if they play knight e5, you just simply take the bishop. So they have to take here first. Just take on e5. If he takes with his pawn, you play bishop b4, and he can't castle anymore. Moreover, he has to move the queen there. What? Queen g3. And you win one of these two pawns, and maybe the rook as well. So, the queen should take on e5. How would you play then? So what comes to your mind? I'm checking your comments. Let's early. Sounds funny, but imagine he takes on e4 and you play this. Or you mean knight can take on e4? Yes, actually the knight can take on e4. Okay, bishop c3 is another suggestion. Bishop c3, yeah, bishop c3 is right. And then the queen has to move. If queen takes, you continue with rook a e1. Well, actually, you continue with rook a e1 anyway, and then f4 and e5. So finally, your task is to play e5 to open the position. That's the goal. You are still down a pawn, but you compensate it with a bishop pair and strong pawn center. If you, for example, ask the engine about how the engine evaluates it, like Stockfish considers it's absolutely winning for white. It's more than +2 for white. Okay. So this is what can happen in case of d6. And you see, it's everywhere where white defeats black in this variation of bishop c5. So I'm talking about bishop c5 here. So after c3, the bishop retreats. d4, and after they take, it's everywhere where white defeats black. Well, bishop b6 is a possible move in this position. Well, not here, but here, bishop b6 is a possible move. In that position, it didn't make much sense because e5 is hanging. You just gain the pawn back and end up with a strong pawn center and better pieces and potentially attack of the f7 square. That's why bishop b6 makes sense in this position. Then castle, d6. They need to develop their pieces. You develop your knight to c3. So actually c3, not d2, is the best spot for the knight. And if you can, you'd better develop the knight to c3. Something like knight f6 is a mistake. Guys, how to react on knight f6? Bishop g5 and then e5. Well, so what you should remember about Evans Gambit. When you play Evans Gambit, with almost any move you make, you should create a threat and force your opponent to defend. These are the moves you should be looking for. It can be an obvious threat or a hidden threat. You're not threatening with e5, because they are okay to exchange queens. Let me draw the arrows so you understand. Bishop g5, they castle. You play e5, they pawn. They exchange queens, and then knight may move anywhere it wants. So yes, it's e5 right away. D takes e5, and bishop a3, because our task is to take advantage of the enemy king's weakness. Now it cannot castle anymore, and for example, such move like e takes d4 loses the game immediately after rook e1. They just have no ideas of how to block it. Well, moving the king to d7 loses in a few moves. You can continue with bishop f7, bishop e6 at least. Maybe you can do something else, but I didn't analyze this move. Well, knight e7, you just take that knight with your bishop. It's obvious. Bishop e6, then you play knight g5. D takes e3, bishop takes here. And if they decide to take the queen, like that, and after this move, well, it is a winning position. So, well, sorry, I missed something. No, you don't need to do this. You block, and the problem is that they just cannot take. If they take, rook e6 leads to a checkmate. The king has no squares to escape. They can only block. You take, they go there, and knight e6 and rook to g7, like that. So actually, Evans Gambit requires you to learn the lines, but if you learn them successfully, you can defeat to play when you're under the pressure, and black is always under the pressure in case if they play against Evans Gambit. So, well, a grandmaster would play maybe 20 moves and do his best and try to defend, but just an ordinary club player will make a mistake. Maybe once, maybe 3 or 4 times, which I think is more likely. Even at my level, let's say about 2300, I still expect such players for everybody below 2000 to lose the game because of no knowledge of these. So that was knight f6, because we have more lines to cover today. c3, bishop a5. This is what I want to cover. There are two options, queen b3 and castle. I kindly recommend to learn them both. Okay, so how to learn them both? Actually, I have just recorded a course how to play Evans Gambit. This is just a 3 hours course, well, where you can learn all these opening. Well, 3 hours is enough to cover Evans Gambit with white pieces. It's not a difficult one. Together with this course, I also recorded 2 more. One is Max Lange attack, and the other one is how to play Scandinavian with the second move knight f6 for black. And this course soon will be released at the Chess World Academy, so you can actually get them. Together with this, you can get a lot of other courses, and so now there are 76 courses, and one more will be published every month. So the next 2 courses are Max Lange attack by me and Scandinavian defense for black with knight f6, which is uncommon. So this is what you can get. Very small amount. If you click to the main page of Academy, well, this is what you get. That you can gain 257 ELO in average after you join the Academy. So you go to this page simply, then here you decide what subscription is better for you, whether you want to get or you decide to play in early basis, which is cheaper. And another important thing is if you apply my promo code. For example, this one costs $14.95 per month. You click get monthly access. It's loading, and here on checkout use coupon code Victor. Less than $10 if you apply my coupon code. I'll provide you with the link, of course. Enter a coupon code here, and it saves you a lot. Rate decreases. It's less than $100. So it's up to you what to choose. Well, I can definitely say that 1 month is not enough to learn everything in late October, and Scandinavian will be released in late November. So if you want, you will get the Okay, fine, let's continue, guys. d4. Well, actually 3 options: d4, queen b3, and castle. So you play d4. Well, they usually take here. Well, they can play d6, but let's talk about the most popular line. And this is where you have 2 options: queen b3 or castle first. And both of them are playable. Well, I can't say which one is better. Maybe queen b3 is slightly better, but castle is more simple. How do they play? Well, of course, you understand that if they take the second pawn, they are in a trouble, because you are able to obtain because if they don't protect this pawn, they are in a big trouble. They have to move their king, lose their castling privilege. The king also gets into trouble, and they lag in development. That's why they have to save this pawn. There are 2 moves, this and that. So, for example, if queen e7 is played, take on c3, and your next move is knight d5 to pressure the queen. So if they play knight f6, play knight d5, exchange knights, and open the e file to pin them both later in the game. Oh, just when you play it, don't forget that the bishop is on a5, so you cannot play rook e1 right away. You have to solve this problem with the bishop. But people who understand that they are already in the trouble, and actually black is already in the trouble, they take on c3. Queen takes c3, the g7 pawn is hanging, so knight f6 is the natural move. What do you think? How we can pressure our opponent then? What are your suggestions? So bishop g5. Well, yeah, bishop g5, this is what first comes to people's mind. Well, bishop g5 is the move that deserves attention. What else? e5 is a clever move, but doesn't work right away. So e5. Okay, guys, you suggested probably 2 best moves. Well, not actually, but 2 logical moves. And what else? Bishop a3. Okay, yes, here John is correct, suggesting bishop a3. This move is better than e5 or something else. Because e5 is faced with knight e4, and bishop g5 is not a problem at all. But bishop a3 forces them to... This is how you attack here as well as here. So here you gain the material. Well, if they take with the queen, it's rook e1 and the game is over. So d6 is the only move, because if queen goes back, it's f7 is hanging, so you can even play knight g5 and take one f7 on the next move. So d6, and now you take advantage of this pin them. Well, knight e4 doesn't really save the position because white captures and pins again. This is what typically may happen in the game. That actually once happened in the game of my student Elliot, and somehow he blundered a back rank mate but was in a completely winning position. So that is queen e7. What about queen f6? Well, queen f6, you can probably play this move, queen g6, and play knight c3. And still continue dominating this position, but you may also play e5, attacking this queen. If knight e5, what should you do? Who remember? And hi to everyone who recently joined us. We are analyzing how to play Evans Gambit with white pieces, and I've already mentioned that this opening is quite sharp, and our task there as white is to create threats with every move, and it's really hard to play for black while they are under the pressure. They are most likely to make a mistake and lose the game in the very beginning of the game during the first 15 or 20 moves. Okay, I'll continue, but I'm waiting for your answers still. Yeah, so it's rook e1, not bishop f7, but rook e1, because if bishop f7 is played, they just take with the knight. So, well, rook e1 to pin, and how to save this? How to save this knight? Well, d6 is the only option, but if d6 is played, you can at least capture the bishop. Actually, you can do much more than just capturing the bishop. You can play bishop g5, you can deliver a check, you can take here with your rook and threaten a mate on e8 with your rook. So if you analyze this position, you will realize that actually black loses the game, but at least you can just grab the bishop for free if you don't want to get deeper into the details and calculate a lot of lines. So queen g6, knight c3, knight g7, and this is how you play bishop a3, trying to pressure and trying to prevent them from castling. I would say this position is unclear, but it's really hard to play it for black. They just can't develop. b6 means this bishop is stuck. d6 means the e file is open. Okay, let's go back. That was queen f6. So here you may say, okay, taking on c3 for black is a better idea. Maybe they have something else. Yes, sure, they have. Let's talk about well, before we continue, there is a good question. What about b4 here? Bishop e7, d4, e takes d4, and castle king side, because if they take, it's queen d5. Well, I agree. Well, if they take, yes, it's queen d5. And what if they don't take? What if they continue with d6? Or what if they continue with knight f6? With the idea to play d5 on the next move. This is where you don't have such a strong advantage. That's why here, after this move, you'd better play queen b3 first. Okay, let's go back to our knight g7. Knight g5. d5. Or knight e5 can be played right away, but let's say d5 first. And this is where you have two options. One of them is to take there, the other one is to take there. So knight f7 is the main one. King takes f7, e takes d5, and I'm sure you understand that if they take, you play queen f3 and gain the knight back, and maybe even checkmate the enemy king, or at least take advantage of its weakness. So that's why here they have to play knight e5. You're down a piece, and if you play d6, they gain on c4. So let's retreat. But this is how they cannot do anything. They cannot stop you from playing d6. So queen d6, bishop a3, and the queen has to move. Taking there is also a blunder. If this move is played, you can continue with queen d4, attacking both knights. On the next move, you play d6, gain a minor piece back, and continue your attack. So, well, I can show you. They exchange queens, but they cannot capture the pawn on e7. If the king takes, what happens? Who knows? So I'm looking for your answers. Looks like one answer. Okay, yeah. You can play much better than rook e1 or rook d4. Yes, bishop g5. Here you can play bishop g5. King e8, the only square, and then just rook d8 with a mate. So you see, well, of course, they don't have to take on e7, but how you play this move next, and you have a strong passed pawn. And then you try to gain the one on c3 with this move and knight c3. This is how you get a winning endgame. So, even if this natural move is played, you have a lot of options where your opponent may make a mistake, but if he doesn't, you play a favorable endgame. What about d6? This is a natural move. What's your opinion how to deal with it? So, queen b3. Yeah, here queen b3, right. We play queen b3. What happens then? Well, the best move is actually bishop e6. After which you don't take immediately, but play knight d4. Knight d4, and you threaten to take on e6 with your knight. If, for example, here they continue with bishop b6, you just take on e6 there. If you think they can do anything else, then this is your next move. So, for example, queen d7, you just take on b7, double attacking these two. Take there, queen takes, bishop g5, attacking it, and white plays for a win. White is going to relocate the knight to d5 and take advantage of their better pieces location. If something like that, you just play e5. and bishop a3 next. If this move, c takes d4, then play d5, improve your pieces, and try to attack g7. So after d6, they are in trouble. What if they play this natural move? What would you continue in this position? By the way, what do you think is the next move black intends to play? Well, here on knight g5, for example, doesn't work. They just castle and solve this problem. E5, they will play d5. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. So e5, I think d5 would be played. And what then? Because it's not so clear that this is a good position. Well, f takes g7. Well, actually it works. It works. Rook goes there, then it's rook there, check. It's bishop e6. You play bishop g5, they play queen d5, and after knight d2, knight e4, they have to sacrifice something because you're going to play knight f6 and force the king to stay here or there. Well, yeah, e5 deserves attention. You prevent them from castling, and if they play d6, this time you play e5. D takes e5, queen b3. The only way to save on f7 is to play this move. Rook e1 now, pressuring here. Well, this is a huge threat that there is a bishop also hanging in case of exchange, so they have to defend on e5 first. But on king d8, but you can get more material. What's your opinion how to play here? Oh, okay, waiting for your suggestions. Yeah, queen b5 is a clever idea, but you should implement this idea something else. You take on e5 and gain the queen. So, for example, c6, it's what I said, rook e5. King goes there to take our queen, but check, b6, and rook takes f5. So they take there, rook takes there, piece for a pawn, to be precise. This move deserves attention, it's just rook e5 right away. King goes there, rook f5. They take there, you take here. And again, extra piece. And the bishop is hanging as well. What else? Knight d7. Still queen a5, and you have extra piece. This knight is pinned, so otherwise they could play this and capture the queen, but actually they cannot. It's a pin. c5, c takes d4, and they are in trouble. So they take here, and you play from the e file. It has to stay. Bishop a3 works perfectly well. Looks like we covered everything that I wanted to cover today. Yeah, that's right. And let's now sum it up. So Evans Gambit is such an opening that requires you to learn the lines and always to pressure your opponent. Well, when you play Evans Gambit for the first time, it can be a bit more difficult for you to find the moves that pressure your opponent. But if you play it several times, and especially you learn these lines, you, let's say, download PGN, repeat them, watch videos, you will just learn how to play it. Well, even if you watch this webinar several times, you will learn at least something, and you will be able to make Evans Gambit your primary opening. Well, they can also decline, but then you play a4. That is also shown in my course. So here, if they take, your main idea is to get 2 pawns in the center. Bishop c5, white is almost always better, and for example, the most common line is this, when they check and you block with your knight, threatening with queen b3. If they go to a5, you still play d4. You can actually play d4 at any bishop retreat from b4. Here, after they take, you can play queen b3, you can castle. Castling was demonstrated just today in this on this Mastermind, and well, if they take, you force them to get into trouble. If they don't, you either pressure their position with c takes d4 and then d5 or e5, or e5 and bishop a3, or queen b3, or even knight g5. Well, by the way, here, for example, castling doesn't work. It looks like this solves the problem, but then you can punish them. Which move do you think you can punish them with? Yes, here you punish them with queen h5 because, well, there is almost knight h6, king goes there, and this is a mate. That's why after this knight f7 they have to sacrifice the exchange. Well, actually, I don't agree with the statement that it seems that black should decline the gambit and play this move. According to my analysis, after a4, white is almost always better. So people who don't want to get into the complications of Evans Gambit usually decline it, but you can also punish them. I can just show you a few moves. So a6 is a possible move, right? a5 is another possible move. If this is played, well, you have a lot of options. Castle, c3, d3, which also looks good with queen b3 idea. Play d3 and play Juco piano, but you gain the tempo with b4. And the bishop is most likely to get to a7 later. And actually it makes sense to play a5 to chase the bishop away. Yeah, this is a playable position, but black still get a worse position. However, it's not so sharp as other lines where black accepts the gambit. So this is what actually can be played if black doesn't know anything of how to play Evans Gambit. If they know at least something, they will accept this pawn sacrifice. Okay. You can join the academy. Well, it should, well, I'm already a member, but I don't remember the password. The password, chess. Okay. So this is, so just let me show you what is inside. This is my course. If you click on it, you see 5 chapters. Well, yeah, 6 videos, but 5 chapters. Well, there is also introduction as a separate video, and bishop a5 is the longest line. Evans Gambit decline is the first chapter, and it clearly shows how white takes advantage. Well, bishop a5, in my opinion, is the strongest move and strongest what usually grandmasters play, so you have to know how exactly to react. And bishop c5 is, well, is not so dangerous, but bishop e7 and bishop d6 as well as bishop f8 are just bishop c5 and this bishop a5, which is a long one. But there I offer for example, you played a game against someone and you demonstrated that you play this line of Evans Gambit. You can, in the second game, play another line, because you can just choose anything you want. Let's say how to play makes sense, and I am, for example, myself interested in it. Win with knight f3. Well, I actually have my own course about knight f3. How to defeat knight f3 with black. Of courses, and if you choose something, you can not only watch the video, but okay, you go to the main page, then immediately let's scroll down, and here you on a monthly basis and use my coupon code, which gives you a 30% discount. Then submit all fields that are required and you'll get the access. So everything is simple, and but make sure, if you want to look to watch other courses, I kindly recommend you to to pay for 1 year. Share the link and then I'll answer this question. So why Evans Gambit is better than King's Gambit? Well, it's common knowledge that in King's Gambit, after e takes f4, black wins more often. So, for example, knight f3, g5. At least at this line, according to what I know, so I don't play it myself, but I've learned it. So here, then what? Knight e5 here. What do you play? Knight f5, and they continue with knight f6, bishop c4, d5, e takes d5, and bishop d6. So according to what I know, this line if black wants to play for a win, they can win in this line. And bishop d6. And the statistics here shows that in 46% of all the games, black wins. 20% of the games are winning for white. And 34% of the games are drawing games. So, well, I don't really like King's Gambit. I played it several times for training purposes when I was younger, but realized that if you want to play e4, f4, you'd better choose Vienna game with f4. So King's Gambit can be played at club players level, but when you reach 18 or 2000, you should definitely change it to something else. Comparing to Evans can be played at even 18 or 2000. That's okay. I played it against 2500 player, and I was able to get the advantage, but then lost the game because he was just stronger than me. So Vienna is the opening if you want to play f4, and if you like to use this pawn, then I would recommend you to start with knight c3. However, for most of my students, I recommend to play Evans Gambit. And when you play such sharp positions and you have to calculate lines, you learn better and faster. Okay, guys, do you have any questions? There is a good question. Okay. What opening is good for beginners to counter Evans Gambit? Well, so you should learn one of the lines when bishop a5 is played. So here, bishop a5, and here you should learn something, the line where you are able, where black is able to get approximately equal position. And you may play these, or if you want, you may play knight f6 in this position. This is how you avoid Evans Gambit, but then you have to learn these. However, there is still something that you may find interesting, such move like knight g4. Not many people know how to play against it, but I'll show you actually. It's knight e4, f5, bishop e2. So they take our knight, we take there. h5, h3. And here white has to know that b4 is the best move, otherwise they lose the game. So b4, then queen d4, double attack. But b takes c5, queen a1, and after knight c3 the queen is trapped. White cannot actually capture the queen, but the queen is unable to join the place of action for maybe 5-10 moves. And this pawn is lost as well because of the pin. So this is what I recommend to play for black and for white if white knows how to play. And for black on a club players level, why not? Especially beginners may play it. So, but if you were my student, I would recommend you to play c5. Why c5? Well, again, if you calculate, if you play open and sharp positions, you learn better. Which line of Sicilian I recommend you playing? Well, any line except maybe neither. So it can be dragon or this dragon. So either normal dragon or accelerated dragon. Knight f6. So this line with bishop g7. It can be, well, dragon is quite popular actually. It can be Khan or Paulson Sicilian. Khan Sicilian, which I'm an expert. Paulson Sicilian, which I'm also quite familiar and I know a lot there. I already created a course devoted to this variation and I play it myself. Steven again. So d6, a6, well, a6 first, then d6, knight f6, and so on. This is a very solid strategy, which offers good counter chances. Or you may play Khan and transpose to Steveningen. So these are the lines that I would recommend you to play as a beginner. For white, I recommend e4, but it of course depends on your playing style. Okay, any other questions? No? Fine, guys. So I'm sure you enjoyed our webinar today. Do you have any suggestions of what we should cover next time? And please don't forget that next time there is a not that, but in 2 weeks there will be a tournament. So Taimanov, yeah, actually, when I was saying Paulson Sicilian, I meant Taimanov. So don't forget to register in our tournament. So yeah, register here. I'll share the link. Here there is a money prize. There is a money prize. The first prize is $100. The second one is $50. The third one is $25. And people who get the fourth and the fifth places will be able to get a 1-hour class with FIDE Master. So it's one of our coaches. It's either FIDE Master Nikolai Yordanov, you probably know him, or FIDE Master Armin Musovic. You can also book a class with our candidate master. He actually has 1 international master's norm with Snehal Hossail. Well, you can choose with which, if you get the 4th and the 5th place, you can choose one of these 3. Yordanov, Musovic, and Hossail. And of course, you can book a trial class. So here on the main page, you can book a trial class like that, schedule your free lesson, choose a coach, and let's say, Zlatanovic, for example. Book a class, and it's absolutely free. We will freeze $2 on your bank card, but it will be frozen for a few days, and that's it.